Hello everyone, today is going to be a little bit of a different video today. It's not necessarily going to be a rant video because I'm not ranting or yelling per se, but I am going to be having a more serious talk with you today, and it's going to be unscripted, talking about the current staleness of Dead by Daylight, because I have felt that Dead by Daylight has been more stale than it has been in recent memory for me in years, and also I know a lot of you guys are feeling the same way, and it's not just a killer issue, even though they have a lot of issues on the killer side, but also Survivor also somehow feels really stale, and I don't really look forward to playing it. Often when I boot up DBD these days, I wonder what's the point of doing anything I'm going to do in a upcoming match, and I really have a hard time finding an answer for that. And this is going to be specifically for the main player base, or the regulars of Dead by Daylight. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, I'm making this video for two reasons. It's not just going to be me whining and complaining the whole time, but I want it to be as constructive as possible. So my first reason I am making this video is because I know a lot of you out there are feeling the same way, and I don't want you guys out there feeling like, am I being too harshly negative? Am I just making things up? I want you to feel like, oh, hey, I've been feeling a lot of the same things, and feel validated by that. The second reason I am making this video is because I know sometimes behavior looks at videos like these that creators make, and I want that to be a good tool for them to see the general complaints of the general player base at this moment. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this not so ranty rant video that I am making today, and how Dead by Daylight has felt more stale than it has in years. First, I want to define this term I keep using, the general or main player base of Dead by Daylight. As regular players, I consider a general player base or a main player base of Dead by Daylight to be the players that hop on and find time to play 2 to 3 times a week, maybe for an hour or two, maybe more. You buy skins, you watch streams, maybe you own merch, but you're kind of somebody who regularly visits Dead by Daylight and interacts with it in one way or another. I'm not talking about the people that come and go just for events, but put a pin in that because that'll be important later. I'm talking about the main player base of Dead by Daylight, the ones that are being hit the most. So for those of you guys that know me, you know my background is mostly in B tier characters. My main character, the Xenomorph, is a B plus B tier character that has some major drawbacks, but has a fairly well-rounded kit, and these are the kind of characters that I mostly find myself drawn to. Characters like Nemesis, like Springtrap, Unknown's another great example of a character that I enjoy playing. I kind of go outside of this sometimes. Sometimes I'll find myself playing Oni or Spirit. For the most part, I play B tier killers, and I have found that just in my own experience talking to many people in the Dead by Daylight community of that main general player base, is most people kind of hedge most of their like playtime, and when they're playing killer, on B to C tier characters. I have a lot of people that love to play Nemesis, they love to play Trickster. You start getting a little bit lower, I have a lot of people who love Pig, who love Sadako. That's kind of like the general player base of people that I interact with the most going through my DBD spaces, is people that kind of hang out in that middle zone. And to that I say, it has never really felt worse to play a character that is in that zone of that B to D tier area, because I've realized something that I won't credit myself for this. I had talked to another very excellent streamer, Gamer Boy Ben, also mains Nemesis and Xenomorph. What a quinkydink, I was just talking about that. And we were talking, and one of the things they said that I thought was really smart is they said it feels like the survivors are doing algebra and the killers are doing calculus, advanced calculus, and for some reason the games are so close. Despite the fact that they're just doing algebra and you're doing advanced calculus, it feels like they're getting the same results that you do. And I definitely feel this, and it feels kind of like the thing I was talking about at the beginning of the intro here is why most of my games, I feel like it's just pointless to play Dead by Daylight right now. Because sure, I am number 4 Xenomorph 4Y, number 1 NA, all that wonderful stat stuff, wrote the guide, blah, 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 blah. But I used to take a lot of pride in joy and learning and exploring the Xenomorph, so I could teach people, so I could recommend builds, so I could show that this character can do better than people think. But honestly, I just don't feel that motivation as much anymore, because I'm doing all of that. I'm trying to say, like, okay, let's strafe outside in so they can't dodge. I'm trying to strafe with my body, not my camera, so I can aim as perfectly as possible. I'm trying to discover every single like individual collision of the individual objects on every map so I can see what I can and can't hit over. And I'm trying to do all of this. I'm trying to quantify this all in my head to try and gear myself towards a potential victory in Dead by Daylight playing a B tier character. What's happening on the other side? Semi-2-tap is finishing a gen in like half the time because I was wandering by in a chase near him, so Hyperfocus Stakeout is just hammering through a gen. Okay, all right, okay, so I guess I should have quicker and better chases to make up the difference with that, right? oh no, they're running Sprint Burst Vigil, so they just have Sprint Burst off cooldown nonstop. So every chase that I try to start starts with like a 2 to 3 tile head start for no reason. So it's not like I can just like cut down on chase time unless I was playing, say, like a Kaneki or a Blight or a Nurse or, you know, kind of the more powerful characters in the game. And the issue is not that survivors have strong perks. The problem is that perk design over the past like 3 or 4 years has kind of started going in a direction where it is the most minimal amount of input for the maximum amount of impact. And we'll talk about why that is later, but put a pin in it and think about the idea that about that other video that I made a while back talking about how the average survivor is just not that good. And it's not like a knock or anything. It's just kind of like that is the situation we're dealing with. The average survivor has a hard time performing, so the average perks are really, really strong. Problem is more that they require minimal input. So it results in this really lopsided, just really nasty, bad feeling when I'm playing a character that's outside of like the top 10, because I'm trying to do so many different complicated things to make the game result in a victory for me, and I know that survivor is just sitting on a gen, soaking up hyper-focused stakeout from just me being in the general area. I know that person that just extended this chase for a long enough time to buy gen time just equipped 2 perks and then required just Shift W, technically 2 different buttons, but you press them at the same time, a single button press, and now this chase is just really, really long, despite them not really doing anything at all to earn it. So it just leads me back to this question over and over of like, this feels pointless, and why am I doing this? This feels pointless, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to get good and really show off that, like, hey, if I put enough effort into learning and understanding not only this character in specific, but the role of killer in general, that I can pull off a win if I am skillful enough, just for the other side to slap on a bunch of perks that just kind of go burr and reach similar results to me. I think this is the thing that kind of like really, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me, at least in my games in the past like month, is I would just have so many games that would come down to the wire. Like we would get to 1 gen, we would have all the gens complete, or they would just outright escape, where I could not track my game back to a singular point where the survivor did something where I was like, wow, okay, that's where all my time went. I really shouldn't have chased that guy that long because he was really, really good at looping me, but I really wanted to get him down. Like, I couldn't track my games back to a point at which there was a moment where I was like, okay, that survivor played really well. Awesome. It was mostly just perks by daylight, and I would see the endgame screen and I'd be like, oh, there's the damages. It's almost like the endgame screens these days, it's almost like the endgame screens essentially became like almost like a bill. You know, not the character, but like a real life, like a bill that you have to pay, because you had to see like, what's the damages? Okay, we went through all that, now what's the receipt? I'm checking the receipt of the game to see like, oh, that's why that game was close, even though they didn't play exceptionally well. It's because they had A, B, C, D, whatever perk or item it happened to be. It feels like endgame screens have become almost like a uniquely negative experience, because it's just informing you exactly how you got cheesed, which does not feel good at all. And then don't get me wrong, it's not just the perks. There have been a lot of Basekit changes to the survivor role overall, and changes around the game that has also caused this to happen, even though it's not necessarily that survivors are getting better. It's also 70-second hook states, meaning that in terms of macro knowledge of the map or of the match, when it's like, when do I rotate to get the save? Maybe I shouldn't be so greedy on the gens because I got to go get our friend. You can just kind of leave him on hook longer. The palette density changes, where like so many more maps will have like you guys been playing Crotus Pren lately? That backside of whatever main building is, where it's the chapel or it's the asylum, have you guys noticed that there's just like on average like 5 to 6 path palettes in that back area for like no reason? It did not used to be that bad. There will be even moments where I'll see both of like one of the hollowed out building tiles, it will spawn both the pallets. It's supposed to be one or the other, but they'll spawn both pallets there. And I'm like, whoa. So there's stuff like that where, you know, you could be like the best nemesis ever, and you're like, okay, I'm already tier 2, I can shred through these pallets really quickly, but like if there's like 5 to 6 of them in a back area, and then you have shack back there, and all this ties back into the main building as well. It doesn't really matter how fast you can shred through pallets because you're having to go through so many that, like, by the time you're done, odds are there's at least 2 gens done. And once again, what did they do during that? Nothing. The maps just kind of arbitrarily got way stronger for like no reason. Another great example is like Mac and Autohaven, Macmillan Estate and the Autohaven Wreckers maps. It's like there's pallet after pallet after pallet, but also they're mostly like God Rocks now. So God Rock being 2 giant rocks on each side, meaning it's really hard to mind game, but it's also near impossible to use any power that you have on a character, especially if you're in that like lower B to D tier area to circumvent the loop. You kind of just have to like force the pallet down or hope them like some outrageous mind game works. But the point being is that like maps have also been buffed to the moon when it comes to survivor ability to use them. And now not only was Windows already, at least according to Nightlight, one of the most popular perks in the game to use, but now we have 5 moves ahead, which has a mini windows of opportunity built into it already. Not only now do they have windows of opportunity, but they also have the ability to throw pallets earlier, ergo making pre-dropping pallets even stronger than it already is, and very much nerfing a lot of those B to D tier characters like Nemesis, like Xenomorph, like Huntress, that like often get those shots at the last second over a pallet drop. Now you can't even do that because the pallets drop quicker. So I think the point of all of what I'm trying to say with at least this section is that I don't know why I'm trying so hard to perfect and learn a more complicated character that's not a top 10 character if I know for a fact and watch that in lifetime, the other side is not having to exert the same amount of stress or effort to meet similar results. It feels lopsided to the point where it makes me wonder, why am I doing this? This feels pointless. And if they don't have to try that hard, why do I? And honestly, I still haven't found an answer to that. Usually it's because the game is fun, but it doesn't feel good to either have close matches or losses just because they have a hydrogen bomb and you are a coughing baby. You know, it doesn't feel good. Also, the game has so much tech debt and bugs that have not been addressed for years. I know my character Xenomorph has a wealth of bugs that have never been addressed. They've attempted to fix a couple of them, but they're still in the game. The fixes failed. So yeah, so it's like you're dealing with a hyper buggy game on top of resistance from the other side that isn't earned, and it just like it creates this really nasty bubble of like play high tier or just play a different game. And I've been playing more variety on my stream at twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache than I ever have, because often my answer for that is like, no, I kind of want to play the Xenomorph. I want to play Nemesis because I love Resident Evil. I want to play Springtrap because I find the character's kit very fun, and I tangentially like Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I don't want to play a top 5 character just to exist in this game. I don't find top 5 character kits very fun. The most fun, quote-unquote, strong character that I enjoy is probably Oni, but even then, against a good team, like if everybody plays safe at the beginning, you end up without your power, and I just want to run around and use my power. I want to have a good time, you know? I'm not interested in the kits of a lot of like the top 5, top 10 characters in the game, but I don't really have much another option if I want this whole like pushback for very little effort to kind of go away. Now let's go ahead and talk about the other end of things, because usually in a situation like this, when there's a big lopsidedness to the balance of Dead by Daylight, the answer is just like, well, just go play the other side more. And I definitely did that during the Blood Moon event. I definitely played a lot of Survivor during the Blood Moon event for that reason. But also, it's not like just go play the other side is the answer to this, because the Survivor side is also suffering from a massive amount of issues that also make me wonder and ask the question, why am I doing this? Why am I playing this side of the game? So some of you, already know this if you guys watch me on my stream at twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache, where I have tried both on and off stream to get better at Survivor. I've asked a comp player or two to try and help me improve at the game of Dead by Daylight in terms of like looping, check spotting, all that wonderful stuff. I've learned clock on several maps. I tried to become a better Survivor main, and I think I lost interest in this because what I realized is similar in the vein of what we were talking about earlier. Why am I trying so hard to like become this like god looper, to be able to be a true asset to my team? Because that was one of my main motivations. So I want to be an asset to my team. Like, I want to go from being an average survivor that can help or hurt to being like uniquely a help to my team. Why am I doing all this? Why am I trying to get good and help my team when realistically, I should just slap on hyper-focus, stakeout, fast track, and then I am just as much a help to my team as if I were actually good at the game. Why am I trying to learn how to loop and extend chase as long as possible when I could just loop and extend chase as long as possible just by running sprint versus vigil? Why would I learn to get better at my macro and make good decisions to help make the game go smoother for my teammates if I could just, like, for example, run resurgence and heal under hook whenever I wanted, even though it's usually a bad idea? There's just a lot of things I realize it's like, why put in all that effort to become a good survivor when there's so many perks that kind of just bridge that gap for basically zero input, and I could just have the same positive effect on the game? It's like, it's completely demotivating. But even then, it gets worse, because let's say I do put in the effort to become a really, really good survivor, and then on top of that, I run all this autopilot meta perk stuff that exists in the game. Well, my impact on the match still has never been smaller than it has felt before, because of so many people DCing or going next, match after match after match after match. I have never played Survivor as much in duos, trios, or full man swifts than I ever have in my history of me playing DBD. If you guys know, you watch me on twitch.tv/CDMasterHake. I'm sorry I'm promoting myself so much. I don't know why I'm doing that, but I guess it's just funny. Anyways, I usually play Survivor Friday. Every Friday I do a Survivor day. I play usually at least once off stream with a friend or somebody, like every week or two in addition to that. But I have found myself more often than ever duoing, trioing, or in a full group, because the influence of one random on the team can just make an entire match fold, even though we were never in any position where we were actually going to lose the game. I cannot tell you how many games where I've had somebody DC at 5 gens at the first inconvenience, or run into the killer to try and go next at the first inconvenience, and all of those games came down to like 1 gen or all gens done, meaning that if we had like one more person on the team, we realistically could have pushed out the final gen or got the doors open so we could actually escape. The person quitting that early was the deciding factor in me losing the match. It's because they quit for next to no reason. And this is what I believe is why the age-old killer question of like, why when I play solo queue, my teammates are stupid, but when I play killer, I get SWAT team 6. It's because so many players reach that crossroads right now with the way the entitlement has ballooned into it exploding at this point, that like even the most minor of inconveniences causes a DC, that you have 2 paths. It's like that 2 paths mean. You have two paths. Either go to comp DBD and only play comp DBD, that way you know everybody on your team is competent and smart and are going to be on comms with you, or you either get in a trio or a 4-man swift and go into casuals and run the busted stuff to make up for the fact that somebody may quit if you're running a 3-man and 1 guy, or run a 4-man and then you don't have the restrictions of comp, so your team is just naturally way stronger, ergo putting more pressure on the killer. I feel like that is the reason, because most players who play this game regularly have wised up to the fact that the randoms cannot be trusted in this game. Not because they're awful, they often are, but it's more so because they can't trust them to not quit, whether that be through DCing or running into the killer. They cannot be trusted not to quit at a random juncture and give up for no reason. They cannot be trusted, so the only way to safely play DBD without that threat is to just group up. So the point being is, it's not like you can just like run over to Survivor, because at first you're going to be like, heck yeah, now I can run the same stuff that was always frustrating me on killer. But then you're not going to be able to make ends meet, because Jimmy 2-tap just went down and got 2-tapped, and because he's a baby, he's going to DC at 5 gens, meaning that no matter how good you are at the game, it really doesn't matter, because you cannot bring a game back from a 3v1 with a bot from 5 gens. You can't do that, so your matches are miserable on that end too. And all of this is kind of compounded into what I believe to be the main problem with modern DBD, is that this main player base that I keep referring to, so people that regularly play the game or at least invest in the game, I don't feel like we have ever mattered less, at least in recent memory. In the last 3 or 4 years, I don't feel like our position in the game has ever mattered less. And I want to explain why. I noticed this because, like, despite the outcry from us, the main player base, over and over about things like 2v8 being like really stale and getting extended every single time, even though we don't want it, I've always wondered why behavior always decides to ignore that and decides to just extend it anyway, making everybody who plays the game regularly fairly miserable. And it's because of the casual player base that comes back in droves for this. They have said this themselves, that people often vote for 2v8 to come back whenever they ask. So there's a mysterious unnamed mass of people that come back for DBD, buy a skin or two, play 2v8 just a little bit, and then they leave again. But there are so many of them that come out that they choose to ignore the main player base, the people who are here in between those events and during those events as well, to try and prioritize this casual group that comes in occasionally. And this may sound really weird and dismissive, and you would wonder, man, why would Behavior willingly choose to kind of dump on their main player base just for what essentially amounts to a bunch of tourists coming in and out occasionally? That doesn't seem to make any sense. Well, there's actually a precedent for it, so let's go ahead and talk about that as well. Not to return to my social studies teacher roots here, but we're going to get into a little economic fun fact. Did you know that most retailers in the United States actually run either with barely a profit or straight up at a loss for most of the year? And then they make most, if not all, of their money during the holiday season, so in the November to December months. We're talking stuff like Black Friday sales, we're talking gifts for Christmas, that sort of thing. They can and often do make all of their money back during this short period, despite the fact that the business, at least from an optics perspective of the stats, looks awful through most of the year, but suddenly they make all that money back and more during this 2-month period. However, the dark side of this is if for one reason or another the holiday season doesn't go as well as they want. This could be just like public perception of the company, or the products just like suck or something like that, like there's a sharp quality decline. There's a lot of reasons this could happen, but if that holiday season that they've been banking on all of year bombs for whatever reason, this could snowball into the entire company going bankrupt because they hedged all their bets on one tiny period instead of long-term sustained and safe growth. They've put all of their bets on this one moment, and it didn't quite pan out, and it has disastrous effects. It is something that me personally, as somebody who has taught economics for a while and it used to be very into how economics works, it always scares me to know that most of the stores that we go to just aren't doing well besides 1 or 2 months. It's a little freaky. And you may be asking, okay, well that's cool, but what does this have to do with Dead by Daylight? Well, I fear that Behavior may be doing this exact thing and may already actually be locked into this mindset. It's strange that Behavior would see their core player base constantly complaining about 2v8 and extending 2v8 despite their wishes and just kind of ignore it. But if we take this into account, Behavior themselves, like I said, has stated that with their data and through surveys and that sort of thing, that people always want 2v8 back. And this mysterious unspoken casual majority that flocks back for these limited time events, they dwarf any voice that we have as the main player base. My fear is not only that Behavior potentially is hedging all their bets on this casual player base that comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes, but it also may be contributing as to why they kind of just like dismiss our voices randomly all the time, because similarly to the real life fact I just told you about real life businesses running at a loss up until 2 months and then they make it all back, I'm worried that Behavior may be seeing their stats and numbers and going, oh, okay, well maybe it doesn't matter as much if we please our main player base, because that big group that comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes, that we get enough out of them that we don't really have to worry about it. Because like, thinking about it this way, if a massive amount of players come in for 2v8, buy a skin or two, and then dip until the next 2v8 or blood point farming event, it might honestly make up the difference for the fact that, like, you know, they are actively frustrating and causing a lot of people to quit the game patch after patch after patch with the general poor direction of the game. If just like the casual group coming and going, it makes the business float enough that it doesn't really matter. Honestly, realistically, in that, you know, situation, which is purely conjecture, I do want to say that it's purely conjecture. It's just what I context clues from what I'm seeing, but it's nothing that's proven. It's just that, like, all they realistically have to do in a situation like that for the main player base is throw us a bone every once in a while to keep us kind of like, you know, invested and drag us along, and then they capitalize on the coming and going crowd, and then they just kind of make everybody happy, which may be the situation that we are stuck in. Now, I really hope this isn't where their mindset is at right now, because if it is, we will continue to see these really, really weird off-the-wall changes that if you asked and took a pulse of the general player base, obviously a lot of us will fight back against these changes. But if you think about Timmy 2-Tap only comes in and buys a skin or two for the event mode and then leaves, suddenly a lot of these changes make a lot more sense, because maybe if the game is not as hard in the 4v1 normal version of the game for Timmy 2-Tap, maybe he'll stay a little bit longer. Maybe he'll buy a skin or two And maybe he won't hate the game, even when he takes his inevitable break until the next big event. He won't hate the game, so he'll come back. I will say though, and I did say that one of my motivations for making this video was the second point that I'd made, which is that, hey, if behavior gets a hold of this, I hope you can use this as a way to improve, or maybe just like use it as a, hey, this is how our general player base is feeling. I do think that if they are going that direction of like hard focused casual player base and like barely focus on the general player base, like I said in my analogy, all it takes is just like one thing to happen, and suddenly a lot of people may not invest in that big event mode that you release for whatever reason it might happen to be. It might be releasing a character, like maybe you don't see we already got rid of Legion from 2v8 because it was deemed too unfun. What if you accidentally release a character into 2v8 that's even more unfun than Legion is? And then suddenly a lot of people don't come to that 2v8. Like, this is, like I said in my example, it's fairly risky to do something like that, to hedge all your bets on just that. So I think it would be better if you invested a lot of time and effort into making sure that those of us who stay here all the time, the people that are buying skins all the time and not just for every 2 or 3 months, I feel like if you invested in the general player base and tried to make sure that the game is actually fun to play, that creates a lot more like long-term sustainability, because I will recommend people to go play Dead by Daylight because I'm like, hey, the game's pretty good right now. We have a lot of good changes. The game health is pretty good right now. They fixed a lot of bugs. A lot of characters that used to suck don't suck. Survivor perks are not as cheesy as they used to be, but because they're not cheesy, they're better in quality. And there's a lot of good that can come for that. And I know you're going to see them down in the comments. Look down in the comments right now. There's going to be a lot of people telling their story of like, I quit because of this. I quit because of this. I quit because of this. Don't you want those people back? These people down here used to love your game. They used to come out in droves to play your game, and they're gone. You've disenfranchised all those people down there. Don't you want those people to come back? I don't think it's as hard as it appears. I really don't. I think that a lot of people, I know there are people out there. There are a lot of people out there that like behavior can do no right, and DBD sucks and it can never get better. Those people probably were going to feel that way anyway at a certain point. But there are a lot of people who just have honest criticism for the game and honest dislikes about the game that aren't that hard to fix. And they aren't that hard. It isn't that hard to bring these people back. You got to make the main gameplay experience like less buggy. It's got to be not so autopilot. It feels almost as if you're almost ashamed of the fact that this game is fairly complex. Like this, that's one of the things that I really love about this game. Is like you gotta monitor your micro game, which is like chases and using or circumventing resources. You have macro game, which is like for killer patrolling gens. For survivor, it's like, when should I get the unhook? When should I not? Which gen should I do in what order? Like, this game has a lot of complexity to it. That is really awesome. But I routinely get the vibe that you guys are embarrassed about the complexity of the game, and I'm here to tell you that is, like I said, that's a lot of the reason that people play your game. People don't play Dead by Daylight for what did Minskull say in their video that I also thought was really good? Dress to Impress Horror Edition. Like, a lot of people don't play it for that. A lot of people play it because they like outsmarting somebody out of loop, whether that be on the survivor or killer side. People like making big macro decisions that affect the entire game that don't seem like big deals, but end up snowballing into a victory. People like investing in the depth of your game and mastering it. And I don't know why it feels like when you do changes like this, where it's like, we got to make 70-second hook states, we gotta have pallet density, we have to make it to where individual perks are far stronger than like anything that the other side has. It's just like, it feels like you're embarrassed about the game's complexity. It's like you're trying to very slowly just like erase it out of the game. Like, we're trying to scrape it out. I think maybe 6-7 years ago, 6-7 years ago, you could have potentially said, DBD is a party game. We don't want to go that route. But we have spent almost 10 years with this game's complexity. We have spent almost 10 years of investment into the complexities of the macro, the micro, the things that make this 4v1 format very fun. So if you somehow still have it on your end that it's like, we're embarrassed about this, we don't want the game to be this intense, like, you're gonna drive. My biggest fear My biggest fear is that you're going to continually make changes that you think are better for the game's health because it's going to make the casuals happy and the main player base is going to hate it. And over time, the main player base is all going to quit and leave. And then we're going to be in a situation where for a splash in the pan, you're like, hey, this is great. All the people that like to complain so much are gone. So we did a good thing and all the casuals are happy because they're buying all these skins. But then you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make an event that's not that fun. You're going to make a 2v8 that just reeks and people don't want to show up. And then what? Because you're not going to have a foundation to fall back on because you've kind of ticked off all of the general player base that comes to your game constantly. Like, do you see how that's not sustainable to constantly like frustrate and alienate your main player base just for the casual player base? Like, it has to be a give and take. It has to be a little bit of both. But it seems like the casual player base is getting all the love and we're kind of being like, well, you guys wouldn't be happy with anything, so you know. So I really would like to see, getting towards the end of the video here, sorry I've ranted so much, but I did tell you that was going to happen. I would like to see a little bit more emphasis and listening to the general player base, and I do feel like we have been neglected more so than in recent years, and it has not felt any more kind of like stale and pointless to play DBD. And I hope you take this as like honest criticism to improve, and not personally, and not kind of take it in a bad way. Because like I said in the previous section, I do think that a lot of people, just as much as a lot of people look for excuses just to bash on DBD, I think a lot of people are also just looking for an excuse to play the game again. I think a lot of people are looking for just one good change, one big good change. They're like, okay, all right, things might be better now. Oh, hey, looks like we're going in a good direction. I think a lot of people are also looking for a reason to get back into the game. And with the changes that continue to be made and have been made in like the last year or so, I feel like you're sending the opposite message of like, you should probably stay away. And if you're not aware of that, well, this video lets you know that's the message you're saying. Because right now, I know for me, it feels like general player base, you're not wanted, or you're wanted less at the very least. And that doesn't feel very good. So yeah, what do you think? I obviously talked about a lot of things. You, as the main general player base of Dead by Daylight, what do you feel about the current state of DBD? Are you like me, where you feel like it's kind of like, man, this feels really stale, and also feels kind of pointless to do half the stuff I do? Also, another big thing, I talked about this earlier as well, if you have quit DBD, since we're trying to make this kind of like a tool that behavior can maybe see and use to see how they can affect things positively and bring you back to the game, tell them why you quit. Tell them why you left. Tell them maybe what is the big thing that they did they would need to either undo, or what direction would they have to take to bring you back. That way, this video is actually a helpful resource and not just like somebody whining into the ether for like 30 plus minutes, however long this will be. That way they can use that constructively, because that's the reason I make videos like this. It's not just to be like, wah, 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 negativity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I want this to be a lesson learned, something that is constructive, a teachable moment that the devs can use. And I also want it to be validating for you at home who may have had these frustrations or are currently having these frustrations. That way you feel like you're, not just making this stuff up, because I know this community. They like to say, well, I can't believe you feel that way. You're so stupid. But you're not. You're not stupid, and you matter. So yeah, that's it for today's video though. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. I very much appreciate that. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But if I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.